right, welcome back to Spooky Happy Hour. I'm your host, Bree, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by a talented photographer and paranormal investigator, Drew, a.k.a. the Haunted Raven.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much for
I am
being here.
well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm, super thankful that you thought of me. So thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, your cornhole performance at MadCon really just solidified that in my
Oh,
brain.
because you know what? I have friends that actually do tournaments up here and everything. So I was trying to tell her to have her boyfriend teach me because I'm like, dude, you're in tournaments, bro. I need your help. So I got to be prepared this year for MadCon. So,
Yeah, you're like, I gotta stand out?
yeah, I don't even who won that match, anyways. I don't remember.
I don't either.
Okay, we'll keep it as that. It was a tie. It's fine.
I mean, it really, since it's a question mark, we can just say we did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, dominated the whole cornhole field, board. Clearly, we're
We'll
the
go with
best.
both. We'll go with both, the field and the board.
Oh, so I mean, there's so many new things that are going on for your life, or even like, reinventing the old stuff, right? Like some dates for events are out. You have a new
Yep.
paranormal TV show that's coming with your face on it. And you were just in like a ghosted magazine. So tell us a little bit about like each one of those endeavors for 2025.
So, well, with my event, we'll start with the first one, right? So with my events and everything, we have one that actually just sold out just yesterday. Sold my last few tickets. So we are going to be headed out to Indiana State Sanatorium. I don't know if you've been there yet, but
Not
it's
yet. It's on my list though.
incredible. Yeah, so if I mean anybody, even if it's not my event, like just go there because it's just one of those places that you're gonna for me, I always enjoy it. Some people have different experiences, but like I've always enjoyed it. I always end up going to just one my particular spot and just stay there. But everybody, it's always a good time there. So I have that one, and then I've got Fairfield County Infirmary coming up right after that. And then I've also got a few in the bag that I haven't actually talked about yet, or well, I haven't,
Mm.
announced them, but I'll go ahead and announce it now because I was actually getting ready to within, like, the next week. I was planning to do a March 1st, so I also have, Madison Seminary coming up as well. I do believe that's on May 2nd. That's a Friday, and then I also have, the Hinzo House coming up as well. I do believe that's
Nice.
toward the end of May. Yeah, and then I've got a couple more in the bag, summer and so on, but I'll wait to announce those ones later. I like to keep things a secret to keep it more exciting. So,
Yeah. Well,
um,
thanks for sharing it here today. I appreciate that. It's gonna be
oh
I
yeah,
mean, those 2 locations are, like, really iconic, so I'm sure everyone's gonna jump
oh,
on tickets
absolutely.
when you release them.
Oh yeah, I've already been selling some for Fairfield, so they're still, they're rolling in, which I'm super thankful about. So I'm not really sure what I've done. I think I've done something organically where it just kind of hit. So I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm riding the wave. So
Right,
it
don't
was
question
really good.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it's happening, don't question it. So I've just been like, we accept it all. But so we'll jump to over to the TV show part.
Mm,
I don't really know how much I can say. I know obviously there's been some posts about it. There was a video that was came out as well. And that video wasn't any kind of like preview, just so that way everybody's clear. That wasn't like the trailer for it. That was just like
mm.
how did he describe it? The filmer, great fucking dude, the camera guy was fucking phenomenal, both of them. They did incredible work, and that was kind of what they called like our superhero shots.
Oh, I love
So that
that.
was kind of like a little tease to see what could be coming. Um, but with how much I can talk about it, I know that it's still in editing mode.
Mhm.
So none of us have seen what it actually looks like just yet, all put together. So we're still anxiously waiting, very excited to see the outcome of it. But we filmed out in the Berkshires. I'm trying to think of everything that's been like released because everything that's been
Mhm.
released I can talk about, right?
Right.
So we went out, we went to the Berkshires and we filmed at the Mount, which oh my god, it was beautiful. I mean, the
Oh, I
house
bet.
was huge and it's is it Elizabeth Wharton? I may have just forgot her name, but I know, last name's Wharton, she's an American author. I'm so sorry, I, like, drew a blank on her name for a second. Edith. That's what it
Mm.
is, Edith Wharton.
You
I knew
got
it
the
was gonna come
E.
to me. Yeah, I was like, I had it somewhere, and I was like, Elizabeth just didn't sound right, but no, 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 it's Edith Wharton's house. She's an American, author, um, who had in my personal opinion, right, I think she had mediumship abilities that she just wasn't aware of just yet.
Mm,
Or I was or knew what it was about, you know, that's very, hush hush during her times, you know what I mean?
right.
So it's not like something she could just openly talk about, but she was seeing things, and in those moments, she was actually scared of them, which is
Mm.
odd, right? Like, well, I mean, it's not odd, I guess. You're seeing things that nobody else could see, and it's gonna freak you out. So I guess it's not too odd.
Right,
But
sure.
he was seeing things that weren't there, that obviously nobody else could see. Um, and in that time, she was getting scared by it, and she conquered her fear by writing about it as well. So, like writing
Oh.
tales about ghosts and everything else. So she, ended up overcoming that fear. So her and her story within not just being an American author, but also being a part of the, spiritual world, um, it's her story is very interesting, and the investigation was I'm not gonna say too much about the investigation. We got a lot of activity there, which we're all obviously, like, super thankful about right out the gate with it too. It made it for a very good investigation.
Mm.
And we ended up investigating the house and, the stables, which the stables were huge. We actually thought that the stables was the actual house, and they're like, "Oh, no, 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 it's farther up." And I'm like, "Oh." We get to the actual house, and I'm like, "Holy shit, this place is
Dang.
huge." And, like, her whole thing was, like, she loved the whole French, like, architecture and style. So, like, she designed her home to kinda fit that setting, right? Because she loved France so much. Um, Beautiful house on the inside, though, absolutely gorgeous. I tried to take, like, some shots, like, while we're in between sets and everything, but I couldn't go off too far, and it was also, I didn't have any of my cameras and stuff, so I was just taking photos off my phone at that point. But I definitely, plan to go back during, like, the spring, especially the summer, because I was talking with, the historian that, works there a lot, and he actually was the historian in the show as well. Phenomenal guy and phenomenal work that he does. But I was talking with him and one of the people that run it because he does a lot of the stuff there, and he even said, if you're a photographer, come back during, like, the summertime because the rose garden itself is in full bloom, and the whole place is just beautiful." And I'm like, "Okay, you sold me."
You're like, "You
I mean,
twisted
I was
my arm.
already
Okay,
sold.
fine. I'll be
Yeah,
back."
I was already sold by, like, this this massive piece of property and everything on it, so, I'll definitely come back. You'll see me again. But
That's
it
so
was an
awesome.
incredible experience, truthfully, and I really hope that everything works out with it,
Mhm.
because it
Well, those
could.
things are so, like, you can get the funding, you can film the stuff, you can do whatever, and then sometimes it may never hit anybody's screen, never
Yeah.
hit anybody's phone or whatnot, and then you're like, "Man, I have this experience that legally I
Mhm.
can't talk about, and I wish that everybody else got to see it too."
Yep, exactly, and it sucks because it's like especially when you know how hard everybody works for it, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the person who came up with it all was Sophia Temporelli, and she came up with the idea at, like, 25 years old, and just ran with it and fought for it for so long. So even for her, as hard as she worked to bring it all together and bring her idea to life, I really hope everything works out mainly for her. Not even for, like, my sake or anybody else's, but mainly for her because she worked so hard on it, and it's such a good not just the story behind all of the authors, but the idea behind it all and everything. It's
It's
unique.
very different,
It's
like, that's
something
not something
different.
that, like,
Yes.
I've heard from anybody else, like, that I've talked to or that I've seen, so I hope that I get to see it for all your sakes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's like this is what I told her. Like, you're bridging 2 different things that has already started to kind of bridge together because you have people that love books, right? Who will sit there and read, but you know that a lot of those people who love books and stuff like that, they're also loving the supernatural. It's like almost like when you read books, it's almost like you go off in this fantasy, and especially those readers who are very much love reading about supernatural things, right? So they're definitely going to come out to experience it because for them, it's almost like fulfilling that fantasy that they're already living within reading those stories, right? So
Yeah.
now you're bridging that even closer, right? Because
Mhm.
you're bringing a whole nother type of genre of like books to the table. and
Yeah, it's like you don't
forming
even have
that
to
bond.
experience this in your mind. You can go and immerse
Exactly.
yourself in the actual experience somewhere different.
Yeah, and you're talking about people who love American authors, the poets, the things like that, right? Who wrote things about the afterlife. Again, you're bridging 2 different things, so not only is it gonna catch the people of the paranormal, but it's also gonna catch other people's attention as well. So, that's why I'm like, I'm really hoping everything works out because this could be really great just as, like, another form of content, like, I mean, everybody loves the paranormal videos, everything from different people because different people have different experiences, but it's like
Sure.
for something like this to kinda start coming into the field, it's something completely different, and I feel like it could grab everybody's attention. I
Well,
think
it's
it's
kinda
a
like with
phenomenal
photography
idea.
too. It's like there's weddings and proms and babies and families and,
Yes.
animals and locations and, like, they each have their own kind of, like, subgenre that they might call in for a lot
Yep.
of different, people. So I'm sure that
Mhm,
you can see that too, even your own work as, like, a photographer too, and how to meld those genres together of, like, supernatural, spooky, abandoned, haunted,
mhm.
and photography.
Oh, that's why I love it when if people wanna get photos of by me, which I haven't I'll be honest, I haven't done a lot of, people, which is
Mhm.
something I've actually trying to work on because it's like if there's always room for more learning with when it comes to, like, any
Absolutely.
kind of art,
Mhm.
and when people are like, "Oh, like, I wanna get photos done," like, for instance, I had a friend of mine that had, really wanted to showcase her tattoos, right? And she's got, like, all the spooky looking tattoos and everything, and she's like, "I really wanna be, like, place that's, like, grungy looking and things." I was like, "I got the perfect spot," right? I got permission to go there to do a photo shoot that day, which was at when we could visit it, but Norwich, because 'cause I'm like, "You got we got tubs that we can put you in, that's outside. We have like the walls that are decaying over there. So I ended up doing a photo shoot for her. So when I can mend something that I'm working on with something that I'm already really good at, it makes it easier and it also makes it a little bit fun because it's already within the interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like get your creative juices flowing. It's like, "Ah, I haven't done this before," or I have the ability to do something I haven't done before. Let's see what I can do with it.
Yeah. Oh, I've got like when I walk through these places, I have like so many different like ideas that run through my head to do like to shoot people and stuff like that. And in shooting, I mean like photography. I just want to clarify that real quick.
Drew's a safe space, okay? Like, you can come
Absolutely.
and chat with him.
um, but it's like I get ideas like that, and I would love I get a lot of people more in the Midwest, so I'm like, I need to take advantage of
Mm.
that when I'm over in those areas because I get a lot of people from over there. Not so much over in my home area, but eventually, I'll end up being able to spread out more and get those photos done. But yeah, no, I would love to eventually do that. So
Well, and how was it to have, like, those experiences and your talents and gifts, like, featured in Ghosted magazine? Like, what was it like just to see you in there?
phenom- it was it was such a weird feeling. You want like because it's almost like did I really just get like did this really just happen?
Mm.
And like I'm beyond thankful for it. April between April and Michael, um, beyond thankful for the opportunity that they gave me. And then Michael, for instance, going off and making this and sending it off, like I think he sent one to each of the people that were interviewed for this.
Mhm.
So we all have like our own magazine cover, which was great. I fucking love the idea because I mean,
Yeah,
hell,
that's
it's hanging up in
amazing.
my podcast. Um,
Yeah.
so for that, like when that came in, it was like I own, when I took it out of the package, even just seeing like that was like I had no words. It's so hard for me to put it into words because it's like one of those feelings that you just don't really know how to describe, but you're just excited, you're overwhelmed with like so many different emotions. And then really seeing it in the magazine itself was just like they asked me some questions, I gave them answers, and the way that they laid it all out was just phenomenal. I cried a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, because it was
Hell
just
yeah.
I've worked my ass off so hard, and it's like, I know everybody's just finding out, but I'm like, "You have no idea the years that I've put in, the amount of, like, nights I never slept to really try to research and perfect all of my stuff." Um, and just seeing everything that I worked my ass off for, starting to showcase and kinda come to light, it's like one of those feelings like, we made it, but we
Mhm.
know that we still have work to do, and it's like this is just one of those things that's confirmation for me. Like, hey, even when
Yeah.
you're sitting here doubting yourself all the time, because I'm my worst critic, I'm my worst enemy. Like, I go head to head with myself before I go head to head with anybody else. And
Mhm.
to get things like that, it's like, fuck, like,
It's like
okay, like
something
we
that's like
have done something
quantifiable.
here.
Right, like,
Yes.
it's something tangible that you can, like, really, like, feel and see, and a lot of the time with all the hard work that, like, you do and other people do too, they don't
Hmm.
ever really get that culmination of something that's tangible that can hold it and be like, "Oh, this gives me that same feeling that you were
Hmm.
describing," and, like, you have that with the magazine to just sit there and be like, "Wow, I did this."
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm like, even holding it, like reading it, my girlfriend asked me and she was like, "How do you feel?" I was like, "I don't know." I was like, I feel proud of myself, I feel thankful. Um and I'm also just a wow factor that I'm in a magazine at the same time,
Right, how
you
cool is
know?
that?
Yeah, it's not something that happens often, and I can't thank them enough. I can't thank the people, like everybody else that watches my stuff, that comes to my events, that has shared my photography and has actually got me to become visible to people. It's not just my hard work, but it's also everybody else's hard work that's, shares my stuff out. Um, buys the photos, buys the tickets to the event. It's because of all of you guys that I'm able to even see half of the stuff that's, coming up to me now, like the opportunities and everything else. Like, so I have a lot of I'm thankful for a lot of the people who have supported me this far and have continued to support me, you know?
Absolutely, we need people, like, a lot of the time, people are like, "Ah, yeah, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do all this stuff," but it's like, I need a collective village behind me to, like, get to where
Mhm.
I wanna get to, and, like, without a lot of the support, which I'm sure you know comes in very unlikely places
Yeah. Oh,
sometimes, like,
absolutely. Yeah.
that amount of support is, like, absolutely needed to get it's like building this foundation for you to grow higher and higher, and it's off of a collective effort underneath it all too.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. And what's weird is that I've had people following me still and supporting me that I had no idea about. Just recently, actually, one of the first people to buy a ticket to ISS, right, sent me a message and was like, "I knew you from Mid Orange Reformatory, and I haven't been to Mid Orange in like 2 years, and no, sorry, probably about 3 years at this point. It's been a while. Um, and the last time that I was there was when I was working for a completely different company." So I'm like, you followed me and have been supporting me that far, like that long. So hearing things like that, it blows my mind because it's like you don't see that often. And to
Oh,
have the
yeah.
support coming from places that you don't even know, like you said, it's like, thank you.
Well, I
Like
just
I
dropped,
see
like,
you guys.
merch for spooky happy hour, right? And I was, like, just toying with some things, and I was like, "I wonder if anybody would want to, like, rock this. I think it's cool." And, like,
Yeah.
putting it out, it was, like, in, like, 24 hours, like, I got several, like, orders, and I was like, "What the hell? Like, this is
Yep.
crazy to me." And one of them is, like, coming fr like, being shipped out to the UK, and I was like, "How do you like, how did you find me? Like, what
Yep.
are you" It was just so surreal, so I can kind of at least into some like small magnitude, right? Like
Yep.
know what you're thinking of like, oh my gosh, like I'm reaching more people than I ever thought that I could.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When people sit there and they buy your merch like that, like, I have my own merch that I sell. I should post it more often, but I don't. And that's my own fault. But, when people start buying your merch and it's like, "Holy shit," like, people really do support you, that's even more confirmation because it's like, not only it's easy to share things, right? It's free.
Right.
It costs $0 for you to share a post, for you to like it, to tell your friends about it, you know what I mean? But when
Right.
they go and they spend their own money on you, that's like a whole different feeling.
Especially in this
Because
economy, I'm like, you want to
yeah,
like
no
spend
shit.
like $30, $40, $60, whatever, to have something
Yep,
that I created. Oh, it's an honor.
absolutely. It really is though.
And with
Can't take it.
opportunities and growth and expansion, like, we have to, like, discuss, like, the other half of it, which is grief and loss, right?
Yep,
Like, it's really no secret that, like, you've had to say some, like, quite literal goodbyes to some locations in the past few years. Like, I'm thinking
mhm,
of Crescent Sanatorium and Prison and, like, Norwich, just to name 2. Like, they both have gone through changes or loss of ownership or, like, not being able to access certain things
yeah.
anymore. So, how do you specifically find closure in relationships that you've built with like spirits in these places and just like the locations themselves when they're not maybe accessible or just like not the same anymore? How do you deal with that?
So, Norwich, I feel like, because I've been going there for years. I mean, started off just urbexing, and then when I started experiencing things in there, I was like, "Oh, fuck, this place is haunted," which obviously I should have
Yeah.
known because, but it was just like before I really got into like investigating, like the serious part of investigating, instead of just walking around like, "Hey, is anybody here? Can you knock?" You know what I mean? But actually going off and using equipment now, and
Mhm.
actually documenting it, like taking it more seriously. Um, it because I was going there for so long and the spirits, like I've had spirits follow me. This is gonna sound crazy, right? But I know you know what I mean, right? I've
I got
had
you.
spirits follow me home. For instance, there was a most recent one that I did, investigation, which was the one that I did with Paranormal Theory, and
Mhm.
Nicole Nightfall, right? That night was very odd. We did an investigation, which the first part of it, right, with the kids. And I feel as if some child or children had followed me home that night. And this is why I say that, because I was seeing children in my house, right?
Mhm.
I would always see a little girl, she probably stood about maybe like this tall, white dress, high white socks, white buckled shoes, like, somebody from during that time. And I would see them standing, like, as I'm driving up to my house after, like, getting off of work and stuff, and I drive up to my house, it's like I'd see her real quick standing on the steps, and then I'm like I slammed on my brakes, and I'm like, "Who the fuck is standing?" And I'm looking, and then it's just gone. I'm like, "Fuck, okay, alright," things moving in my hou
Yeah.
I heard, like, giggling in my house, and I was like, "Okay, you guys can't stay here, like, I understand if you don't mean harm, but you cannot stay here because it's not like it's my house. I'm sharing it with my girlfriend and her 2 kids," so I'm like, if she catches one of you guys moving something, I'm dead, okay? It's my head on the platter, not y'all's, you know?
You're
But
like,
that
"Help
night
me help you out here."
oh,
Like
absolutely, like, for instance, like, in this space that I'm at and, like, this whole area, I'm like, I have my own little studio thing, like, in my mom's house, because obviously I used to stay here, so a lot of my office stuff is up here.
Mhm.
It's haunted as fuck thanks to me. I don't know if this place was haunted prior or not. It's an old house though, but, like, at the same time,
Mhm.
like, it's increased 10 times worse since I've done investigations, brought things home,
Sure.
the whole thing, right? Um, but that night, when I was leaving that place, like, I was beyond exhausted. I don't know if you watched the video, but you could kinda tell the very beginning, I'm, like, pumped, ready to go. Towards the end, I'm like,
Dude, is it the same
I'm
video where she
exhausted.
starts singing?
Yes.
I
Yep.
had to shut that shit off. I was like, "Y'all can't come in here through, like, whatever frequencies that come in for me watching this
You know what's
video."
wild?
I'm
Is you're
like,
not the only
"No, ain't
person
doing
that
it.
said that.
Nope,
Somebody
ain't doing it."
else was watching it. It was actually my best friend. She was like, "You can tell Nicole not to conjure up any spirits in my house, please, for the love of God, because I've got things happening over here." So she ended up turning it off too because
For
she's like, "I can't.
real.
There's too much happening." And it was so quiet earlier. So, yeah,
I could
no,
feel that on a soul level. Homegirl started singing, I was like, "Not today, bitch." Like, I'm sorry,
yeah.
like, seriously.
No, yeah, yeah. It was a wild night, and it was supposed to be investigating. But,
Mhm.
like, we ended up getting drawn off, and so it ended up being kind of like an exploration on top of investigating. So and we had
Yeah.
so much happening, and it was really hard to try to cut it all down. But, like, let's not say, like, that night, I truly, truly feel as if the spirits, and I say children spirits, and there's a reason why, is because that night driving home, I could feel myself falling asleep at the wheel. No
Mm.
bullshit. It's an hour drive for me back home, right? So, and it was weird because I kept getting these chills running up my spine, and I kept feeling as if something was behind me in my back seat. And I kept like I moved my mirror and I'm looking
You're
because
like, "If I look up there and I see what I'm thinking in
I'm
my brain,
waiting
I'm gonna freak
to
out."
3 children sitting in the back the seat. Like, there was just 3 of them back. I just could feel 3. And then
Mhm.
every so often, I would feel, like, little hands on my arms as like, from behind me, but it's just going every so often, and I'm, like, bugged out now, but I feel as if there was a way for them to make sure I got home safe. They
Mm,
were keeping me awake, and that's why I'm like, this sounds crazy, and I know that, but, like, people who have these weird experiences, I know that they get that, and they truly understand, like, what I mean.
mhm,
Spirits that I've always had there, like, I know a lot of people will go there and they say that they have those off the wall negative experiences there, and I always feel like it's what is in your soul.
mhm.
Because if you have a nasty soul, right, or you're just a negative person, you're gonna get that side come out.
Sure.
I've always been positive to them. Anytime that I would go there, and I would always bring water, and I'm talking whether I'm going to just walk the halls. I would go there not even to investigate, not even to take photos. I would just go there to just be there and walk through the halls with them, letting them know, like, hey, you're not alone today, right? And
Mhm.
every single time I would always bring an offering to them, which was just some sort of like there's a gas station that's like a couple minutes up the road, right? And I would always stop there, I'd get a big old jug of water, you get a cup, and then I grab one of those little, those sliced pieces of like bread that's like cheesecake flavored or
Oh,
these.
yeah.
Yeah, and I would just grab one of those and I'd break I'd break with them. Sometimes I'd bring a sandwich and I'd eat with them. It was just the little things like that. And I was always respectful. There's times that I even would like try to help pick up some trash in there, things like that that people would leave. And I would try to put it in like a corner or something so it's just a little cleaned up. The caretaker did a lot of the cleanup in there anyways. So she was phenomenal at trying to keep the place clean. But, there were just little things that I would do, and I feel like that for them was like, somebody cares, you know?
Yeah, it's
They
meaningful.
always anytime that the caretaker would go there anyways, like, they always watch over her. I think there's a specific spirit that she mentioned prior, that would always look out for her, you know? A lot of the spirits there trusted her. So it's like when you show that act of kindness to them, they show it back to you, and
Mhm.
it's so important for me for them to know that you're loved and you're cared for, no matter what you did. And I feel like that's why I'm really drawn to like the asylums because there's so many people that were put in there against their will that had nothing wrong with them. What?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you read books and you're a woman,
Because you spouted off your mouth to your husband?
or smack the fuck off of him because he deserved it. Like, you
Right?
know what I
Like
mean? And
mhm,
it's like you just get dropped off. Kids even would get dropped off there looking for their moms after,
mhm.
or their parents, or their brothers and siblings, and wondering why the hell that they were just dropped off there, and it breaks my heart. It really does. So that's why it's like, for the people who care, that really truly care about them like that, it's like they can tell, and then
Mhm.
when you form that bond with them, it's
You give them a
hard.
place to belong even in the afterlife, because we all search for
Absolutely.
that in our living lives, but, like, in the
Mhm.
afterlife, it sounds like too, like, from your experience, like, they're still searching for that in and of themselves, and
Yep.
you being there and, like, being respectful and offering them things, like, that's your way to be like, "Hey, you belong with me."
Yeah, absolutely, so it's like, when you don't have that anymore. Like, I mean, I'm sure I could probably go, right? Um,
Sure.
but I'm not trying to get arrested at the same time, and I'm not in shape. I know I look like I'm in shape. I'm not in shape, okay? I can't run from the cops, so I just avoid it anyways. The last
Mhm.
time I was there, I didn't know that it was gonna be my last time, so for me, it took a little harder. That's why it's like a part of me kind of wants to go back so I can
Mhm.
say that goodbye. But again, like, I'm not trying to, like, break any kind of rules or anything or trespass or nothing like that,
Sure.
because before I always had the permission, but now it's
Mhm.
like, I think about the place all the time. It comes across my mind at least once a day, you know? It really does, and, it's really hard. It's almost like you lose friends.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like when you
Mhm.
lose, like, a good friend and there's no way that you can, like, reach back out to them, it makes a hole in your heart.
Well,
Um,
it's like when you experience other things too, like, there's so many friends that maybe I have, like, outgrew, right? So, like, we don't
yeah,
have that constant connection anymore, but then maybe I'll experience something, even if it's, like, 10 years down the line, right? I might
oh,
experience something
absolutely.
and they might pop into my brain and be like, "Ah, that person would love this show that I just went to, or that person would love this book I just read, or this place that I was
Mhm.
just at," and that's all that it is just this, like, moment of connection in our memories or in our hearts and souls, and sometimes that's all that we get, but it is
Oh,
still
absolutely.
significant.
It really is, and that's like when we talk about Crescent, because I know you mentioned that one too, right? Oh god. The connection that I had there with the spirits in general was unbelievable almost. And you're talking about, like, with prisoners as well, right?
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of the connections that I had were with prisoners. Um, now, you could ask them, "Are you guilty of it?" They're gonna tell you, "No, I didn't do shit. I shouldn't be in here."
Mhm.
Whether or not that's not my place to sit here and judge you for it. You know what I
Right.
mean? The way I look at it is you did your time, right? And clearly you're still doing your time in the afterlife if you're stuck there.
Mhm.
Now it's not like these investigations that I've done. It's not like hey, can you turn this on for me? When you have objects, I feel like you're talking about residual energy, right?
Mhm.
But when you have things that answer you back in audible sounds, it's almost different because I feel like at that point, is it really residual energy or are we really speaking with another spirit? These answers almost seem too spot on with the
Mhm.
knock. Like I go off of knocks, especially in what was it, E block. God, E block was always so active. Um, and just speaking with them, there were so many times I never really investigated Crescent. It was more or less you just go in and you start
You
talking
just
to them.
experience what they have for you that day.
Exactly, and it's like I would investigate when I did the events there, and I've had, oh god, so many different types of experiences. That was the one place that I could probably tell you, as a set like, people who are skeptics, I'd always be like, "Okay, I like that you are, you know? When you come out of here, when you're gonna leave tonight, I want us, come find me."
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know what was happening in these buildings, but I'm telling you right now, I couldn't debunk anything, I couldn't reason with shit, and I've had people that were still coming out like, "I don't know." I'll
Sure.
say, "I don't know," because
Mhm.
sometimes you don't know, but then you have the people that are like, "Holy shit," and I've had people tell me like, Hey, you can't say that because you can't guarantee anything." I'm like, "Well, I don't know," because every time I've walked into these halls minding my own business, they tend to show up. So that's why I'm like, if they want to be seen, they're gonna wanna be seen, and for having nobody coming into these buildings for how long? Now they got people in here, they're gonna like, hey, who's this? Hey, come here, come talk to me." They
Mhm.
half the time, may not even know that they're dead, but they're seeing people coming in and flooding through. They're like, "Hey, come speak with me," "Hey, take me home. I don't belong here." You know what I mean? Like,
You
I've
came to
had
rescue me, thank God. Like
yes, and it's like, what is it? Oh god, I'll never forget one of the EVPs that I got. No bullshit. I grabbed my stuff so quickly and ran. I'm talking sprinted out of that building, and it was in, what is
Mm.
it? Restricted housing unit.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there and I'm getting trying to do some recordings and I'm like, "I'm not really getting anything. It's all gargled. I can't decipher it." And then like I'm like, "If you could say anything right now, what would it be?" And the thing that came back through there, I literally boom out of that building because
Yeah.
it literally was just me out. And I'm like, "No." I was
Deuces,
out.
I'm out.
All I heard was out and I'm out. And like I came running and everybody's like, "Dude, what happened?" I'm literally like hands up here running for my life. They're like, "You look like you just saw a ghost." I was like, "Basically, I feel like that dude was like face to face with me." And I
No
showed them
lie,
and
like,
it's
I
like,
walked into RHU and I smelled a Black and Mild. Like, so strong. I was like, "What break time did I just, like, walk in on when
"Oh
y'all are,
yeah,
like, having a Black and Mild, like, chit-chatting about whatever?" But, like, it was the
yep,
like, I've never had, like, the olfactory type of, like, sensations in a certain place ever
yep,
in my life, and I just walked in there and I was like, what is this? I mean, like, if like my 21 year of life in 2011 or whatever taught me anything, it's definitely what a Black and Mild smells like. So I walk in
oh
there,
yeah,
it like
absolutely." We all
slaps
know that
me in
smell.
my face. And I was
Yep,
like, oh shit, what was happening here before I just walked
yep.
in? Like, what would y'all
Oh,
doing? Like,
absolutely. It's so crazy. Like I always loved restricted housing unit mainly because there was a specific spirit that, stayed there a lot, and, I really built a profound connection with him in specific, um, which was actually one of the reasons. I don't know if I can really talk about this or not, but, I mean, if you Google it, you could find it yourself, but he was actually one of the reasons why it closed down.
mm,
Um, they say that he killed himself. That's what's on record, but I don't personally believe that. I think it was made to look like a suicide, and it's like you had people that actually would go in who served time in there that are still alive,
Mhm.
which I loved that because I'm like, you're coming back to a place that you've been in and did time, and you know some of the people that we've had spiritual encounters with, because I asked him, "Do you know anybody that maybe went by the nickname Suicide?" You know, or I asked actually his first name, like his real name, what he his real name, and he's like, "No," and I was like, there's people that say he went by, Suicide. You know, that's what they called him." He goes, "Yeah, I did hear about that kid." Because he was he was young, like, early 20s, I think is when he was put in there, you know, and he
Well,
didn't.
so you can find the DOJ report about, like, the atrocities of, like, people being denied medication and physical abuse and, like, having
Oh,
people
no,
housed in
the
cells over and over
psychiatric
and
that
over
was
again.
there was a fucking douche sorry, is an asshole, you know,
Mhm.
feel free to bleep me out for that one. But it's like, the things that he if you read all the stuff and it makes you feel I know they're and again, I know people are probably gonna be like, "They're prisoners, they deserve that, blah, blah, blah," but I'm, like,
But they're still
also kind of
human
like the person.
beings.
Exactly, and it's like, you have people in there that may not have been put in like, shouldn't have been put in there. We come
Absolutely.
across this even nowadays where people are still committed to crimes that they never are accused of crimes that they never committed. So
Think of
I
all the
always have,
people of
like, that.
marginalized communities that they will put into there to have a bad guy, when
Yep,
really it was some other bad guy that really deserves that spot, and, like, lo and behold,
yep.
20 years later, they have to do a redaction, say, "Oh, you can finally go live your life because you were actually just a byproduct of collateral damage of some other
Mhm.
political bullshit."
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. We see that way back in times during, like, obviously, what is it? Not even slavery, but when they started to become freer.
Mhm.
How many times are we look at Missouri State Penitentiary. I don't know if you've been there yet,
Not yet.
but, in their gas chamber alone, right? So when you go to the gas chamber, and there's a picture. I don't know if it's still there. I wanna say that it's still there because it was such God, it was a profound photo, and you have all of the inmates on there that went through the gas chamber. Tell me how many of those inmates were white. Good handful, right?
I was gonna say, probably slim.
Mhm. I feel like you had and there's postcards that you can I mean, you can get the information when you go there, you can look them up online, but there's postcards that you can get there, and I highly recommend getting them, right? Because it's just a stack of postcards, and I think it's everybody that went through the gas chamber, and it has everything on there, even, like, what they did, and it's like some of these things just didn't make sense. Like,
Mhm.
reading them, and it's on the people who were of color. Some of it just didn't make sense,
I'm
right?
sorry, there are still, like, black men that are sitting in fucking jail for
That's what
marijuana
I'm saying.
possession while we, like, while communities go to the dispensary and get that shit for 10 bucks and go home.
Yeah, no, I know. It's crazy. That's what I'm
Crazy.
saying, like, we've been
It's crazy.
experiencing this whole thing for this has been something that's just, like, I don't think will ever go away. You know what I mean? So that's why
I
it's
hope
like
it
I always
does,
try to
and I
keep
hope
o
that we're alive for that, but it seems
Oh,
hard to
absolutely.
imagine that it
Mhm. I
could,
mean, I
you
try to
know?
keep a hope like, that hopeful outlook on it all, but it's also hard when we constantly see it every single day, you know?
Right.
And it could just be social media and the news and everything else that could be making up all different types of shit, whatever, or showing all these little things to make you think differently. But
Sure.
when we come to investigating and everything else, I always keep an open mind with these spirits, right? If you respect me, I'm
Mhm.
going to respect you, right?
Sure.
That's how it is. I'm going to do the same thing that I do talking with you. Like, if you're going to go out of your way and be an asshole to me, I'm not going to give you my time. I'll go
Mhm.
find another spirit that wants to talk, right? And then there's spirits where you could try to sit there, for instance, like E Block. I almost felt like none of them really wanted to speak on sorry, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze, so I'm trying to fight it right now.
I'm, like, pushing
But
you to do that.
I know, like, I feel like my eyes watering and my nose is, like, getting that itch, so I'm over here like, "Oh god, don't do it." Um, but it's like so I got this weird feeling. I started asking different questions, and I think this is why I kinda got, like, that connection in there with them. I found out later as to why it made sense, but I'm gonna, like I was asking, like, different things that had to do with, like, Hispanics, right? and I don't know if a whole lot of Hispanics were in there, but I'm sure there was a couple or a few.
Sure.
Um, and I would ask things like, Money Rock. A couple of my uncles that are Puerto Ricans, right? They've done time. So
Mhm.
I've gathered things that they used to talk about, like what they did, and they still play Money Rock to this day, which is just dominoes, but it's played in a certain way, or it could be the same as dominoes, but they just call it a different thing in prison.
Mhm.
But they would call it basically Money Rock, and they would basically it's just a dominoes game. So I'd ask questions about that, right? I'd be like, "Do any of you guys know how to play Money Rock?" And I swear to God, it's like the whole place just became like came to life, right? So I'm like, "Okay," like I was like, "Don't
Is
worry,
it
guys, I
like,
got
"Are
this part.
you
I
one
got
of
this."
us?" Like
Yeah, that's why I'm like, "I got this. Now I'm gonna get them talking." So I'm like, do you guys miss like that home cooked meal by either like your girl or by your mom? The whole rice and beans and oh my god, boom, 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 lights going off on the freaking REM pods, and I'm like, yep. I'm like, I feel like I'm talking to some Hispanics right now, and I was talking about different things about that, and it's like they would feel free to talk about that, and then come to find out when we were in that area, one of like the same person I was talking to that like knew suicide, right? Sorry. He goes, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of like the Latin kings stayed there in this cell." And I'm like, "Oh, that makes perfect sense as to why we were getting the responses that we did the other night or a couple of weeks ago or whatever." And it was such a cool experience. That's why it's like you don't always have to sit there and talk to them about things that's like what they did, because they don't wanna talk about that. Why would they wanna
Right.
talk about it if they didn't wanna talk about it before? Even if they did those things, they're not gonna talk about it now. Talk about things that they like. Talk about like, random things. I just pulled that shit out of my ass and was like, "Hey, let's talk about this. Let's see what happens with this." And then boom, the whole place came to life. A lot of banging, a lot of, like, REM pod activity, like, spot on to things.
Yeah, you
Um
make that connection, and I mean, like, one spark can just, like, have this whole, like, fire, right? And it's so nice to
Yep,
have the confirmation because it's a field where we don't have a lot of confirmation,
yeah,
right? Like, I just went and explored, like, a newer haunted location, and I'm sitting there in the living room, and I'm like, "My god, my skin feels like it's on fire," and the person that I was with was like, "Oh my, you're hot? Like, I'm freezing." I'm like, "No, no, 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 bro. Like, I'm not, like, feeling hot. Like, I literally feel like my skin is burning, like it's
mhm,
melting off my body, like almost as if I just got
ah,
engulfed in a flame." I talked to the owner of the location and they were like,
mhm,
"Oh yeah, we don't really," because their philosophy is, I'm not going to tell you the stuff that I know, mostly because I don't want you to go in there, let your confirmation bias take over, and then
yeah,
you run and tell all of these stories when, who knows, like they're still gathering info about this place. And they were
mhm,
like, I shit you not, a week ago, we found out that there was a fire in the very room that you were
mm,
in for like this time in this place. And I was like, oh my God, right? Like something that you could just like feel in your bones or something that pops into your brain and you don't know why really it did,
yep,
but it comes up and like you speak it. And then later when it gets confirmed, like that, I feel like those are rare instances in the paranormal, but something that we all generally look for. And some people don't ever
yeah,
get.
absolutely. No, absolutely. And it's weird that you say that. Like, I know I've ran way off topic here, but the weirdest thing is when you say that. Last night, we are so the house that me and my family are living in right now. I thought it was haunted for the longest time because I was like, I feel like there's something weird about the house, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's me because obviously I go to places I don't cleanse myself always, and I know I need to get better at that, but there's things
Sure.
that obviously whether it's like that ick that we talk about, that kinda, like, little residual that's still left on you and stuff. But my house is I talked to my next door neighbors, and they were saying how, like, before, we used to have the fire alarms randomly going off. Randomly. I'm talking different times of the day. But it was always at the same times, right? 9
Hmm.
AM, sometimes 11 AM, 2 PM, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, like 10 o'clock at night. Random times, but it would always be at those same exact times, which was
Mhm.
weird. I'm almost like, I don't want to say that it's paranormal because there could be logical explanations as to why all of our alarms
Mhm.
are going off right now, right? Um,
Mhm.
I called the fire department if they could just come in, check our alarms, make sure there's nothing wrong with them and stuff because I'm like, I've replaced batteries. Like, I don't understand at this
Yeah,
point.
you're like, "I've done
You know what I
everything that
mean?
I could do. Someone needs to give me another perspective here."
Yeah, I'm like, is there something wrong? Is there something wrong in the wiring or something that we need to go farther or whatever the case? Because these are wired into the house. They're not the ones that you can just stick up.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm like, "Is there something else?" And they just said they just need to be replaced. I'm like, "What? Okay, whatever. I'll tell my landlord, but I feel like there's something else, right?"
Yeah.
Um, and so come to find out when I was actually Halloween night, right? Because we're sitting outside giving out candy to the kids, and our next door neighbors came over to get candy because they have a little girl. And they were talking about some weird stuff, and I asked them because they lived in their house for like mad long. I think they own it.
Mhm.
And so I was talking to them. I was like, "Have you like, do you know anybody that lived here prior?" And they're like, "Oh, they were some weird, like, Albanian, I think is what she said, or something like
Mhm.
that, like way off
Mhm.
Middle Eastern." Um, and she was telling me some crazy stories, and she was like, "Oh my god, there was always fires here. They had a son who was schizophrenic and was constantly lighting fires in the house."
Oh
And I'm
my
like, "What?" I'm like, have they passed over?" And she's like, "No, like they moved out. They're all still alive as far as we know, at least." But she said that there was a lot of things wrong with their son, the main one obviously being schizophrenic. Last night, right? And I didn't think anything of it because I'm like, okay, maybe we were dealing with residual energy at that point that he may have something so drastic could have left that permanent mark in that. And it has nothing to do with a haunting, but it's just a residual energy that constantly was just left, right?
Yeah. I mean, like,
Get
if it would be like if his mom, like, burnt dinner all the time, maybe at 5 p.m. it goes off because she's fucking
Yeah.
burning dinner or some shit,
This is
like
and he was they were like the fire department was constantly over here because the kid was just starting random fires. Last night, actually yesterday, which was fucking weird all day, right? I was smelling something burning in our room and I was going nuts. Like at first, I'm like, why does this smell like maple syrup oatmeal? And I'm like, am I just like hungry right now? Because and then I grabbed
Mm.
Lila, which is her daughter, and I'm just like, look, come here, smell the room. And she's like, I don't want to. I'm like, no, no. I'm like, okay, understandable. I said, just sniff the air because I feel like I'm going crazy right now, and I need you to help me. And she's just like, it smells like throw up. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, how did you get throw up? I'm over here getting something that smells good. You're getting that. And then like the longer on that I kept smelling, right? Literally checked all the outlets, right? We also have an electric blanket too. Okay.
Mhm.
That wasn't on. Unplugged it, right? I even turned our heaters down because it was warm yesterday and the whole house just felt hot. So I turned the heaters off. So I even checked. Nothing was touching the heaters because we have the old metal ones.
Yeah, like the
Nothing
radiator,
touching.
like, heater.
Yeah. Yep.
We have that too.
Nothing, dude. None of it, everything was cold. The plugs didn't even look like, I'm like, if there was like even like remotely any kind of spark that happened, it would
Mhm.
show on the outside of the plug, right?
Right.
Nothing, dude. I'm smelling the heated blanket, making sure nothing blew up in that. Like I'm going around, I'm smelling even the plugs to make sure I just looked like a crazy
Mhm.
person. Nothing. But it now this morning, gone.
Fucking wild. Well,
And
and
I'm
I
like, "What the hell?" Like, that's why I'm like, "Is it just a residual energy? Did he freaking start a fire in this room, and that's what's happening right now?" Because I was trying to figure it all out and nothing. Even my girlfriend came home because she worked late last night. She came home. I'm like, "Go smell the room. Go do it,"
smell it.
because I don't know where it's coming from, and I don't like, I felt nervous to sleep last night because I'm like, "If a fucking fire started within the walls," you know? So
Yeah,
that's
because
why,
'cause you're
like,
also thinking, like, right, like, I don't wanna go paranormal, like, maybe it is something that needs my attention as a person who lives
yeah,
here, like,
I can't
and
find anything.
in social like, feelings and sensations and, like, anything that stimulates our senses like that, I do think that they're there for a reason, right? Our senses are here for our survival. So if
Oh,
something
absolutely.
continually, like, comes back to you, like, wouldn't that also be, though, if you were a spirit or energy or maybe have some intelligence, wouldn't that be something that you would want to have someone else experience is, like, getting into their senses because it makes people pay attention. We're
Oh,
wired that way.
absolutely. Absolutely, and it was just I was mind blown.
Well, and, like, from
I
you
felt like
coming from a home, right, like, you said, previously that, like, when you were younger, like, you had your own experiences and, like, now you're in a different house, like, different place, and you're still having these experiences. Do you think that maybe, like, your senses or your sense of self, right, like, your connection to you, do you feel like
mm.
if that's stronger than maybe some other people, that that also gives you a stronger connection to the other worldly type energy?
Oh, I definitely think I have a strong, connection with them to basically, From what I do, I am a mortero, which is basically a death witch. It's in it's in my bloodline. No matter how much I wanted to fight it off, I have no choice at this point.
Hmm.
And that alone, basically, I'm like one big ass light. If you think of the afterlife and you think of like I always describe, you know, when you're watching Insidious in that one scene where he's like trying to find and he's in the other realm, right? And he only has this lantern and it's just all dark, right? And his lantern goes out and then he lights it and it's like boom, there the whole dead is surrounded by him.
Hmm.
That's almost like kind of like what it's like for people like us. They just flock to us. And I feel like that's kind of a because before I'm like, I don't know how I get a lot of activity around me. Everybody's like, how do you? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I would
Hmm.
love to figure it out, but I feel like a lot of it has to do with that. Um, because I get weird stuff happening. Like the other night, this was wild to me. I was walking my dog around the block, right? Three different spots. I smelled Paleo Santo. And I'm looking up, like, when I first smelled it, I'm looking up, I'm like, "Is somebody outside burning it?" Because there's sometimes, like, when I go outside, I'll have it just sitting burning while I'm, like, outside reading or whatever,
Oh, if I burn it, it's like on my clothes. Like you
oh
smell
my
that
god,
shit
yeah,
on me
and I
all
even have,
day.
like, a bracelet. I'm not wearing my bracelets today, obviously, but I usually will have a bracelet, and one of them is Paleo Santo, so, like, if I'm, like, close to it, I can smell it, right? I haven't
Hmm.
had my bracelets on because I've been home, so I haven't felt like I needed to wear them. And, it's such a strong smell. 3 times, right? And one part of this walk, I smelled like a strong laundry smell, right? But obviously, like somebody could be doing the laundry late at night, having it in the dryer, and I just could smell it strongly outside.
Sure.
But then it went back to the Paleo Santo smell, and then I kept wanting to look behind me because I'm like, I feel as if something's around me right now. Because there's no other reason why I should be smelling Paleo Santo. That's such a distinguished, like specific smell,
Hmm.
and it happened 3 different times. It's the number 3 has to do with big time with the afterlife. And so I get back and I'm about to walk up my steps, and out of nowhere, my left ear started ringing. And I'm like, hello? Like I this that's like a huge sign, like when things are trying to get messages to you. And
Hmm.
it was just like so like I always have little experiences like this. How there was one time I saw something here, I felt challenged in my own mom's house, came up here, and something was sitting. I laughed. I threw my girlfriend at it because we both
You're
came
like,
up
go.
here. Yeah, literally just like that, and we were walking past and I already felt very off when I was walking up here, and I even told my mom, I was like, "Whatever the fuck you brought home recently," because she goes antiquing. I was like, "Stop it, because you're grabbing things and you don't realize what you're fucking bringing into the house. Cleanse the shit before you bring it in." And so, I walk past and I go over where my bed used to be, like, well, my bed's still over there, but, like, and there's this thing, and I'll even show you, like, hiked up standing here looking at me like this on
Oh,
my bed.
fuck
I
no.
fucking
Mm-mm.
shoved Jules. I shoved her over and I took off running. She's like, "Pendejo, why'd you just throw me?" And I'm like, "I'm so sorry. That was a reaction. I'm so sorry."
Sorry, you were about to be collateral damage, but like that's my
Absolutely.
course of action.
It
Like,
scared the living shit out of me. Female wearing some sort of like a cream color or tan color like dress that looked like she was just soaked.
oh hell no.
Hair. It was like the
You see this
creepiest.
shit? I'm about to
I
all
look
up
like
out of here.
Nick in your face after speaking with me. No bullshit. Um, but, like, I went downstairs and I had this photo in my hand because we had just moved a bed downstairs from my mom, right? So I took some photos down so we didn't because the way my stairs are going down, it's like kinda rounded. So I had to take some stuff off so it didn't knock off, like, the walls and shit, and I went to go put it back, and we're downstairs at this point. I'm, like, talking to my grandmother and I go to go into the kitchen, and it was right here in my face. I nearly threw the fucking picture at it, and I screamed. Like, I literally threw it up and screamed, and was like, "Whoa, whoa!" And my mom was like, "The fuck is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I swear to God, that thing was just down here in my face." After I just got done yelling at my mom for whatever the fuck she brought into the house. S-
Yeah.
I I have instances where it's terrifying. Like,
Oh, sounds like it.
there's so many people that are like, "I want this gift. I want to see him." No, you don't. No, you don't, because it can be terrifying like that. But, like, in those moments is where you need to be in your like, especially in your house, like, "Hey,
This is
this is
my
my."
place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've had friends, like, "You need to put them in your place." And they're like,
Mhm.
"I do it all the time." One of them is Nicole, and I'm like, Why are you so bossy to them?
Oh, bro, I teach my own son. Like when my son feels something like off or like he doesn't want to sleep in his room that night and he wants to sleep like with me, I don't
Mhm.
let him. I'm like, nope, I will hold your hand. You go in there and you say to whatever it is that you're afraid of, that you're sensing, that you're like this causing this fear.
Yep.
You say, get the fuck out. This is my place. And like, I'll let him curse if he wants to. You know, he's 5, but I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
even give a shit. I'm like, you tell them you claim your space, buddy. This is your spot, your toys where you sleep and you deserve to feel safe. So if there's something in here that's compromising those feelings, you can tell them, I'm the king of this room. You can leave.
Mhm. Yeah,
I'll speak.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You need that because, like, it is your space. And, like, if there's one place that you can come back to in this world that makes you feel safe, it should be the place that you spend the most time.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, I always joke about it because I'm like, these ghosts aren't gonna take me seriously because they're watching me hype myself up to yell at them. Like they see me like, all right, yep, I'm gonna tell them to stop. And then I go, I'm like,
Mhm.
you need to stop. And they're like, go to sleep.
Mm,
We're not even entertaining this. We'll see you
right?
tomorrow to scare you. You
Go
know what I
on your
mean?
rant, and I'm still
Yeah.
gonna be here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's like I'm like, these guys behind me here, like I've got haunted objects here behind me, right? And
Mhm.
these guys here, Mrs. Mackerby, oh, when I first got her, she was all over the place. And I'm like, you need to chill because you're supposed to be in a box, right? You're not supposed
Right?
to be out and about. No. But I
You're like,
mean,
I gave you some
she's good
freedom.
now.
Like, I gave you an inch, don't take a mile, you know?
Oh no, she took the whole mile and some. She took like 10 miles. She's good now, like, because 'cause we've realized what she really wants is to just be respected. I feel like
Mm,
for her, she was very much not respected in her other life. And it's weird because I feel like I felt bad when I first saw them. The deal was too good to be true, right?
always.
First first red flag. That was a first red flag. Um, but I felt bad for the guy. And that's why I bought them. And then when I got them, they recorded their own EVP in my own backpack. My EVP recorder was in my backpack in a case. Okay. Had a whole hour of them screaming. And you
Stop.
can hear me talking and like walking around in the background. Yeah. So that's
They
why
have
I'm
a
like,
whole mind of their own.
oh, it was like that blood curdling scream. Like
The ones that, like, haunts
almost
you in your
break
dreams forever and
yeah,
ever.
like almost breaking my speaker, how bad it was. So that's why I'm like, fuck. But they're good now. But that's why I'm like, I get drawn to things. I get drawn to certain places. And I feel like and this is something that me and a friend of mine are trying to figure out. We don't know if it's something past life,
Mhm.
right? Why I'm so connected. Maybe I spent some time in some of these places, or if it's like because these spirits need help, whatever it is. Like I get drawn to different things. They come to me in my sleep, they come to me different times. They came to me at work, scared the living shit out of me, had me run into a pallet. Like no bullshit. So
Yeah, it's
it's
like they
like,
don't discriminate, like, what time, place, like,
oh
your
no, they're
state of
like, oh
mind. They're
buddy,
just
you're
gonna
at
show up
work.
whenever they want to.
Boom. Yeah. Hello, I'm here. I need you. And I'm like, no, not right now, please. It's crazy. Um, but it keeps it keeps it interesting.
Well, I'm sure, and you said you've kind of been like, you know that it's kind of there, it's a cultural thing, it's a familial thing, and then you're finally
Yeah.
kinda coming into it. So, what would you say to your younger self? Like, what advice would you give to your younger self about the journey that you've been on, all the things that you've come to know and experience? Like, what did your younger self need to hear from, like, you right now about that?
Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Um, Start sooner. Research things sooner about yourself. Um, like I that's the biggest thing is that I wish I would have started this journey sooner. I wish I would have known about things sooner. Um, it could have dove deep into my heritage, obviously with my Hispanic side, and embrace and learning more about the other side of things because I feel like I have connections with two different belief systems,
Mm,
um, and I wish I would have dove deep in them sooner. Um, and my biggest thing is don't ever, with everything that I've got, don't be afraid of it. Embrace it all. And that goes not only for with the gifts that I have, but that also goes to putting yourself out there, believing in yourself more. Especially with the photos I held back for so long because I just never thought my work was good enough. And it took multiple people to get in my head and tell me, just do it. What's the worst that's
right.
gonna happen? Right. So, that's why I'm like, don't ever be afraid of it. Don't ever be afraid what people think of you, because I struggled with that a lot. Um, just embrace everything and never be afraid,
Yeah,
basically.
I always say that, like, if you're willing to take a bet on yourself, you're never gonna lose. You're either gonna
Mhm.
get everything that you wanted or you're gonna have a myriad of lessons of how to get what you want.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Um, yeah, this whole life is nothing but lessons. That's why we keep coming back, and I think that's where a lot of our past lives maybe come in to, hey, you're supposed to be learning from this, okay?
Right, it's like,
You
"I
know
did this 27 times already, don't make us learn 28 lessons, let this be the only one and done," you know? Like,
Exactly, and I
we've
feel like
done
that's
this
really
before.
where they come through, to help guide, and that's where, like, our guides come in to help guide us so we don't repeat the same lessons, but it all comes down to us. Are we gonna listen to it, or are we gonna keep being,
Little
small-minded
shithead.
and Oh, absolutely. I always joke, I'm like, "My guides are probably fed up with me
Oh, yeah.
every day." I put them through the
Mhm.
ringer, and they're like, "Seriously? This again? How many more times, Drew? Hey, we've been fucking at your door in your face with signs, but yet you're still ignoring them."
Yeah, it's like
But
I put that obstacle in your path for a reason, not so that you could find something to like get over it or like get back around it or whatever. Because I'm trying to tell you, take a minute and think and fucking stop. Because there might be something else that like you're not getting here, something else that's not for
Mhm,
you, a different avenue to take, or some time to be like, be introspective, go inside and be like, is this really what I want? Is this really what I should be doing?
mhm, yeah.
You know, they don't fuck with free will. They just fuck with the circumstances about how we use our free will, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Exactly that. Like, we just as long as we keep pushing and we keep learning from it all, we should be good. Unless they decide to throw spinners in there, which I swear to God is what they love to do with me. They're like, "Oh, you've been doing great. Here, parkour." You know, like,
Exactly. I'm
what?
like over here crossing my fingers. I'm like, yes, that's supposed to be how it works.
Yeah,
So we're gonna move
exactly.
into our last segment. It's called concoctions and conundrums. So our viewers came up with some would you rather questions, deeper discussions, just kind of things that they really wanted to hear some people talk about. So you'll
Alright,
pick a number from 1 to 25, and then we'll both talk about like our answers to that question. So what number is speaking to you currently?
13.
Oh, 13. All right, I have to go to my other document page to do it. Um, well, no, I don't wanna zoom in there. Okay. What do you think about the psychic phenomena of near-death experiences? So, like, some people have near-death experiences, right? And then,
Mm,
maybe they were brought back, using, like, CPR. Maybe they were in a coma. Maybe they drowned and someone, resuscitated them or whatever. And when they do come back into life, they have maybe some special extraordinary gifts or they have a connection to something that they didn't prior. What do you think of those near death experiences and how they connect to like maybe giving people abilities?
so, I feel like they can. Um, there's possibilities of it because you may have just died, right? And even if they bring you back, like, at one point, you were dead, you know?
Mhm.
There are a lot of instances where that happens. Hell, sometimes I even wonder if that's what happened with me. Because back in January January 10th, 2017 is the day that I decided I was gonna do and take my life. I was at a very dark place, very dark for like a couple of years. Um, and I did. And I went through with it all. And obviously somebody called and the ambulance and I tried to refuse them. They weren't having it. Um and I remember them being in my room. I remember them picking me up basically because I had no function. Watched myself lose control of body parts. Terrifying. And that actually still haunts me to this day. Um, the last thing I remember is the nurse standing above me telling me it's gonna be okay. We're gonna save you. And my head hit the thing. And I woke up 3 days later in ICU and incubated, being woken up completely. I guess I seizured out, died. They got me back, and I was just hooked up um, for a couple of days, I think. Um, The only thing that I saw, and the only thing that I ever probably will remember, was these gates. They were white gates, and I that's the best that I could describe from what I remember. Now, after that, I mean, some people say that that's why I got what I have, um,
Mhm.
while others say it's been in my blood. And that brings a question like what you just said. Is it something that connects you with something that you may not have known about? Because these are questions I still ask myself. Because there's times that's why I don't talk about it much. Because I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm still very much learning. This is God, that sneeze is coming back. God. Um, I'm very much still learning all of this still. I'm not a
Mhm.
pro. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that, I'm gonna bring your grandmother back and give you every kind of advice that she's wants to tell you. That's not how I operate, because I'm not 100% sure myself sometimes, and I know I need to be more.
Mhm.
But that's why it's like when you ask that which is odd that you even clearly there's a reason why I needed to answer this question, right? Because I feel like I can't answer yes or no on that. Because it's like every person not every person comes back and has these gifts,
Right.
and it's only happens so often. So that's why it's like it does, I feel like this brings more questions for me than it has answers for you,
Mhm.
um, because it's like I still ask that within myself. Is it truly something because I don't have memories of, like, how most people do, right? Of,
Mhm.
when they were kids and they saw dead people and like my story never started that way. I was always curious within the dead, mainly being selfish is so I could speak to my grandfather.
Mhm.
Um, but I never really had I mean, maybe he was around me and I just was too oblivious to it. Um, but I feel like a lot of this came forward stronger after my suicide attempt. Um, So I don't have a full answer on that one. I feel like yes, it is possible because I feel like I'm one of them, right, that could do these things and it's almost like it connected me. I feel like a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're stepping into the afterlife as your own spiritual body, right? Um there's got to be something. I feel like
There's
if
no real
you
binary, right? Like, when you
yeah,
go and then, like, come back, it's not like there's this connection that severs just because you're on the side of the living, right? Like,
yeah, no,
we
no, no.
have tethers to the other side in objects that are, like, with us, that we wear, or,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
intuition, all of those things. So it would, it wouldn't make sense to me, right? Like, to have all connection cut off. So it
Yeah.
sounds like, like you said, like, maybe that thing was always there. Maybe I was just trying to turn a blind eye to it. You know what I mean? I know it's there, but
Mhm,
I'm just trying to not recognize it. And then you didn't really have the option to not recognize it anymore because now you're here and you have this purpose, you have this drive. And I just want to say, like, thanks for still being on the planet because we need
appreciate it.
you. And I'm glad that you're here. And
Mhm,
it's one, super vulnerable to talk about the darkest days of our lives. Two, it's really something when you follow through with plans that sometimes aren't great in nature. And
mhm,
three, like, you're reminded too in the same, like, of your own mortality
mhm,
and what that really means.
absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that with me and, like, with all of my viewers and, like, and all of the people that follow you and support you from day one too, because you don't know how many people are probably going to listen to this that are going to hear something in what you said that allows them to be like, you know what? Like, I have a connection here too. Like, I can't
Mhm,
leave this place yet. And that's
yeah.
really huge.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's why it's like I feel as if I was put here to help people. Um, because I never really, before like I mean, I've always been that person that always looks out for others, always, giving that, shoulder to cry on or listen to, or, if you need a vent, you just need to scream. Like I'm always that person, right? And I feel as if when this all happened, right? Sorry, I'm like keep hitting my mic. This is probably gonna be loud knocks in there. But I fully feel that I'm meant to help people, and I feel like that's why they're like, "Hey, nuh you can't go just yet. Like, we're not allowing you to go." Um, and during those darkest days, when it came down to my final hours, I definitely feel as if there were people around me. Um, Somebody told me that my grandfather was there when I passed. and guided me. I would like to believe that, but I don't remember anything of him being there, which kills me because it's like the one person I would want would be him.
Mhm.
Um, he is always around me even more so now. Um, but it's just like I definitely wasn't supposed to go. It wasn't my time. And I've dealt
Right.
with people recently. Um, and I don't know if it's that these are like I know I'm supposed to be here to help the afterlife. 100,000 like 100% this is why I do the things that I do. It's not for me. It's for them.
Mhm.
Everything I do strictly is for the spirits down to my photography, my events, going in and doing my own investigations, whatever the case may be, it's for them. That's how
Mhm.
I've always been, and that's how I will always be. Um, and when it comes down to helping others, I'm seeing because I've recently had to help somebody who was going through a very bad depression, um, and did exactly what I did right before my eyes. And I telling people, and I'm gonna say this right now while I have this little platform and little speaking area, it's not worth it. I'm gonna tell you 100%, it's not worth it. It's not even worth for you to attempt it because there's not a guarantee you're not gonna come back.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's not always that guarantee. I had a one chance and they decided, you know what? I'm gonna give him a second chance. But that's not like I did die and I came back for a reason. You may not always get that chance. So please, if you're out there and you're thinking of it, please don't do it. Don't. My messages are always open for people that feel that way. Um, And I've always wanted to make that a safe space for people. If you feel that way, please come talk to me. I'd rather sit here and talk with you all night, every day if that's what it takes, you know? And
Mhm.
I've been feeling like a lot of people have been coming around me that are in that depressive state. So I feel like that's another part of why I was brought back is to help people in any kind of way if with whatever it is that they're feeling, you know?
With the
And
world being the way that it is today, and with some communities maybe being a little bit more targeted than others, I think
Mhm.
that, like, you were kinda made for this moment, right? This
Yeah.
moment where people can see you, relate to you, understand you on that soul level, and says, like,
Yep.
"Hey, like, I know somebody that's going through my specific struggle and my specific reason why maybe I don't wanna be here anymore," and
Mhm.
you can show them that there's purpose to
Yeah,
continuing to live.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely, and what's crazy is I also try to incorporate because like I said, I'm very drawn to asylums, sanatoriums, and things like that, where you had people that went through that, you know? And when I
Mhm,
talk about things like, I feel like I'm just like you, spiritually speaking, right? And
mhm.
like you said, our souls, right? That doesn't detach if we pass because at the end of the day, our souls are what lives on. That's our spirit that
Yeah,
goes
you could
off.
meet me in a new body
You're
60 years from now, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Me and my best friend joke about it all the time and say that we've known each other for lives on lives on lives, and
Mhm,
that's why I probably could never get rid of her even if I wanted to. You know what I mean? We just have that connection where we feel like we've definitely have been on this earth way too many fucking times at this point where we're like, "Hey, aliens, can you come back down here and grab us real quick, please? Because we're
yeah,
done." You know? Um,
yeah.
but it's like, God, having that connection, and that soul thing, everything, when you're in those places and you feel like I said, I relate to them. I tell them, I'm like, I've been in these places. I'm just like you. And I know exactly how you're feeling. And they know that because they just like they can read us.
Mhm,
You know? So they know we can sit here and fake it and say, "Oh, like, we love you." But deep down, if you're like, this goes back, like, if you're a shitty person in life, they're gonna know that. And if you sit there and try, they're not gonna believe you. They're gonna see right through that bullshit.
mhm,
So you really have to mean it in your heart and your soul and everything that you're there for them. And when you have that connection like that, that's why I incorporated my events because it's like, it's not teaching the living, it's not even teaching, it's teaching both, right?
mhm,
At the same time. And I think that's why a lot of people like my events and why I've had people tell me that they like the way that I investigate. And I'm like, I don't even know you. But based off of my videos that I've barely put on YouTube, like
mhm,
one of my first videos, I think, what is it? Wildwood. Somebody showed up in the live chat Didn't even know that they were watching. Showed up towards the end and were like, "The way that you investigate and the way that you treat these spirits is like a breath of fresh air, and I
Mm.
appreciate the work that you do." And it was like, holy
Oh,
like,
that means so much.
because I feel like I really don't do that much, truthfully.
Mhm.
Like, I'm just talking to people like how I would every day, you know? And for that, to people recognizing that and the way that I do things, it's like it hits home because it feels good that you're knowing that you're making that, even if it's a small difference, but you're
Right.
still making a difference.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I
that
mean?
genuine care and concern, and, like, it's the shit that you can't fake. So,
Mhm.
for all of you that are out there listening or watching, please visit Drew, and at the Haunted Raven, go to an event, see for yourself exactly what he's talking about. If you have concerns or questions about like how do I do this, please hit him up. Like he will give you the play by play to get there. And I think that everybody needs to experience what you have in this world for them. And I thank you for allowing me to experience that here today.
Absolutely, and I'm telling you now, I always try to help people as much as I can, whether that's learning something, and if I don't know a whole lot in that, I'm gonna tell you, I don't have a whole lot of experience in that. I'm not gonna bullshit for you. I'm gonna be straight up honest, but I will definitely try to figure it out how I can help you in whatever way that it is. So definitely hit me up. I have so much to offer to people,
Hmm.
and I'm very
And if you
excited to
haven't
see.
gotten that message, right? Like through all of the wonderful things that we've chatted about today, like the TV show, the magazine, people selling out your events, like that's one of the main reasons why I wanted you here today too, is more not because of like what you do, because of who you are. So
I
thank you for
appreciate that.
sharing all of that with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate, like I said earlier, the thought of me being on here because there's a lot of great people in the field. Like even
Sure.
though there's like a few bad apples here and there, you're gonna get that everywhere you go. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of good people in this field that work their ass off just like I do and have a good
Mhm.
heart just like I do. Um, so like there's so many people that you could have picked, and to pick me, I greatly appreciate it. It's an honor to be on your show. So
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And for those that are listening and watching, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to be alerted of future episodes that happen here every Thirsty Thursday. All the links will be posted in the description. So you can head over to all the places where you can find the Haunted Raven right here down below. But until next time, everyone, cheers.